dominate sexually so you can stop defining your masculinity. So we're on Wednesday night caller, men's development excellence. If you want to find out more about that, you can find out down below. But the thing is that, man, when you are sitting and caught up in what it is to be a man, all this sort of definition, which we all have done and we all will do, and it's such a great thing for a guy to do. It's a point of discovery and all this sort of shit. But the way to solve that and the way to get in touch with that is to start having good sex. And man, there's no excuse or no reason why you shouldn't be having good sex, because there is this podcast, the TSL podcast, basically maps out a bunch of stuff for you to be able to have good sex. We have over 200 episodes. Man, 50 of them have to do with sex. We have PDFs on how to have good sex. If you're not having good sex, it's because of something up here is keeping you from that. And if you don't know how to talk to women or have a relationship or make a connection, we have tons of information on that. So there's really no excuse. And if you're watching this in the month of April, you can download our free PDF on getting sexual over text message. But there are tons of PDFs. Every month we have another one that goes out there, and they're PDFs that are designed off of questions, off of calls like this where there's 13 guys on. It's almost midnight tonight. And man, like they were designed to help guys out, and then guys went out and did them, and then they got rewritten, and they're just really good. All right, so check this out. We just had a guy on this call talk about how awesome it was to have sex with these two girls in the same day and just lay some pipe. And this wasn't his world before, but and different people go at different paces. But for him, man, like he took it and ran with it, and he started to have sex with these different women, have these different experiences. And there's so many different guys on the calls, especially on the Sunday call, who just give advice on just the whole dynamic, the dynamic of the relationship, the dynamic of the sexual nature, and it all comes from experience. And see, the differences here, there's kind of an ongoing joke that happens within this of like, man, this is some red pill stuff. This is some MGTOW stuff or whatever, which we're not any of those things, or these guys aren't. And we're kind of making fun of it because some of those guys came on our board and got kind of intense. And if you're a part of that, you can come on the board. That's cool. But it's kind of stupid. And the reason why it's kind of stupid is because once you start using your dick like it's your dick, like you put your masculinity out there, like you start to fucking have experiences where you fuck them and they do things for you. Like, man, I was joking about this the other day, but some guy was talking about how he has a personal assistant who's a woman who does all his laundry and all this sort of stuff. And I was just like, man, God, it's so easy for you. I thought I just had to fuck people to do that. Because it's true. That's what happens. This isn't because women are these dumb animal creatures. It's because part of the best part about femininity, the part that you want as a man, the part that you get when you use your dick right, comes out in these really beneficial ways. It's the total opposite of us, and it fucking helps us out. Man, and sometimes we get really deep in it, because let me tell you something. Man, when you use your dick really good, a woman's going to want to do your laundry. She's going to want to cook your stuff. She's going to let you borrow her car. She's going to do all this stuff. And it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're a rich dude, she's going to want to, accompany you in those ways. If you're a poor dude, she's going to want to accompany you in those ways, because that's just the nature of it. But see, as men also, that feels really good. That feels really good. And there's this thing that isn't the trap of this deception of women, or the trap of the misogyny, or however women want to talk about it. But it's just what happens when men and women start fucking really good. We get stupid with it. And we start to trap ourselves in a way where, let me put it this way. Every time you're having good sex with a woman, every time the relationship starts connecting, every time you get taken to a new world or realm, especially with sex, and especially because we don't talk about it much, this is what happens. We start going like, man, I want to be with this person for the rest of my life. I want this. This is awesome, man. And we start feeling those natural feelings of monogamy, or we start feeling those natural feelings of like wanting to bond. And then, if we give too good of a dick, man, she's going to want to get pregnant, man. Not because she wants to deceive you, but because it's this biological urge. It's just so good. Fuck, man, I want to give this guy everything. I want to share life with him. I want to take his life and grow it inside me. And I don't give a fuck what he does. And girls will say all this sort of crazy stuff. I remember, man, I was having sex with this girl and it was so good. This was actually in 2008. And we were just fucking, and she's like, I don't care what you do with me. I don't care if you make me pray. My dick's in her, right? She's like, I don't care if you do what, just do whatever you want. You can have everything. And she's just giving, because the sex was so good. A month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, a year later, she's not thinking those same things. So we get carried away. And we even get carried away in the relationship. We get carried away in all these different ways. And, this is actually a point in our groups where we have a lot of guys in relationships, a lot of guys who are married, a lot of guys who've gone to that other side of the relationship where that fizz starts to settle down and we get that flat soda. You know how that goes? You open up a bottle, it's been a week, and it's just like, oh man, still tastes like Coke or whatever it is you drink, but man, it's not the same. And so we have to realize through the wisdom of being a man and experience of what a man needs to be. And I think the real, this started off with this guy on the calls was talking about fucking. He was talking about how great it was. He was talking about, just all the different things of the control, the feeling of power, the feeling of self, not because it's this thing where we're dominating or abusing somebody, but because those are some of the feelings that come about in it. And when you have that in the act of sex, you come back to reality and you stop worrying about defining what a man is. You stop going online and you stop thinking of these power struggles, over a woman who at the bank teller snubbed you at a certain point for whatever, and then you think you have to get your masculinity back. You don't fucking worry about that shit when you've been fucked good. You don't worry about that shit when you have a dick that you can use. You don't worry about that shit when your dick has landed a beautiful woman or an amazing sexual experience or an amazing adventure. You don't worry about that shit, right? But see, the interesting thing is because we have so much, so many different guys on here and so many different points of life. And we're speaking to the wisdom here. We're speaking from experience. We're speaking from the men who've made the right and wrong choices, but always learned from those right and wrong choices, speaking to the wisdom. So when we're speaking to the wisdom, this is what we get. Man, sometimes a relationship means more to that. Sometimes a relationship does stagnate. Sometimes a relationship does change and all these different things morph into it. But how do we not lose our heads as men? And that's another thing, just to tie into this, because I was talking about this in another live thing that I did today. But man, when we don't speak to that wisdom and we're in a new situation, and let's talk about those new situations. Let's say we're having sex for the first time. Let's say we have a girlfriend for the first time. Let's say we just start getting good with women, right? Those are a lot of new situations with a lot of tension that we keep private because it's hard to articulate. But if you're not speaking to the wisdom, man, you're going to react in a lot of ways. Not because people are evil or women are manipulative or whatever the fuck it is, but because you don't have experience. You don't know. And rather than not admitting that you don't know, it's a lot easier to blame, right? And so we get caught up in that bullshit. But here's some other new experiences. Let's say you have good sex for the first time. Let's say you break someone down. And I mean that in the best way, but some guys who fucked, man, you know what I'm talking about. You're fucking, and she breaks, man. She changes. She gives herself to you. You take her. You put your sexuality on her and she gives everything and her personality changes in that moment. And you look in her eye when your dick's in her or when you're in the act of sex and she has given everything and that's it, man. That's a beautiful feeling. If you've never felt that, that's a new experience. That's a lot that you can react to. And so you trust your body, do your thing, react to it, do all that sort of stuff. But you got to come back to the wisdom. You got to come back to the guys who've been there. And so there's this other phase of it, especially that I'm in right now, being in a relationship. That's one of the things I'll never do, man. And this is one of those things like TSL, established program, established company. Myself, been coaching for a long time. Man, world class, all that sort of stuff. I'm not trying to say that to be an asshole, but man, I don't know a lot of coaches who've accomplished what I've done and in so many different ways, man. But that being said, never will I do the disservice to myself of holding up a frame to be a coach where I can never be wrong or say that I'm still learning. What a stupid thing. What a horrible thing, because now we have this great power, this great power, this great community of folks on here who are part of this, right? But there's this part where you're in a relationship and stuff, that fizz starts to run down. It starts to get flat. You get the flat soda, man. It's not as good. It's not the same, right? And you're going, what the fuck is this, man? I need to get out of it. You get in that midlife crisis mode, or you get in that mode where you're like, shit, dude, we're just partners. We're a part of a team. And I was talking about this with my buddy the other night who's divorced. He was saying, man, sometimes it's just okay. Like, what's wrong with being a team? And then you talk to a couple other guys who are in their 50s and 60s who've made it past that dull point in a marriage. And sometimes you got to leave your marriage. I'm not saying that, or your relationship. Sometimes you got to, absolutely. But they move past that and they say, man, you just got to chill out. We got to talk to the wisdom. And one of the things that Jim, one of the guys on the call, says is he's more sexual now than ever. But he's like, I'm not sexual in the same way I was in my 20s. God, that was stupid. What a waste or whatever, and blah, 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 blah. I had to learn to change my sexuality. I had to learn to change my relationships. We have to see that this experience of man and masculinity has this road that we walk where we are the ones that have to change rather than the longer you go down the road, blaming the road or blaming the bumps on the road for fucking you up. That we're the ones that adapt to this awesome life, man. It's a beautiful thing to do together. Man, you want to get your head fucking out of your ass. Stop trying to define what you are and start using life to teach you how to do it. As I heard, it's an amazing quote. And just me being in recovery and all this sort of stuff was a great thing. Was that this Amy Winehouse documentary? You know, she died of all, like, just a tragic life, super talented person. But in a way, man, I relate to it in a way I respect that so much about her because she, like, man, living that way, man, you just burn, 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 burn. And it seems hopeless at times because, you know, it's just the youth and whatever. And Tony Bennett sits there and he says, man, he goes, I wish I would have told her because she was just so great, blah, 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 blah. I wish I could have just told her, life will show you how to live it. You just got to stay alive long enough to let it. And man, that is a key. Stop searching for the definition in yourself from something outside you, putting you in the world. And all that tying into the wisdom of sex, man. You learn how to use your dick, man, you'll learn how to be a man. And that is some for real shit.